Greetings and welcome to your Tuesday night edition of Chicago Corner. I am your hostess with the mostest, Kira Macoun, here with you like I am every Tuesday night as of 6 weeks ago. I'm so happy to be here, so excited to be hosting this show tonight. Tonight, I have a couple of co-hosts and an incredible guest. And we're going to be giving you a little bit of information things going on around the city, some of the things that you can get involved with, and then other things that you can, probably just get angry about and whatnot. So let me start by introducing my co-host, my fabulous co-host, Mr. Jerry Vasilatos. Welcome, you made it.
Right in the nick of time. If I blink out, I might not come back because I don't want to interrupt the flow of the show, but I just restarted the computer, so maybe I'll have some luck tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's Tuesday night, so you don't have to be so much in the forefront.
You're the captain anyway. I just want to listen and participate.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And also with us as always, and actually in my perspective, I don't know if Ed's always with us, but he has been since I've started. We have Ed Heller, pizza man himself.
Even when I'm not here with you, I am here with you in spirit.
In spirit. Awesome. You're here in spirit and in body now.
And mostly just to help press the buttons, but to throw my 2 cents in every once in a while, especially if it's, stories about potholes or, Chicago fires or chocolate milk, then I'm totally talking about that stuff.
And pizza.
Yeah, pizza too. I kind of like that.
You are Chicago's you're who people go to in Chicago to find out what pizza they should go get, right?
Well, we got 4 styles here in Chicago. You got the deep dish, you got the thin crust, you got the caramelized pan, which is very popular, and
That's my fave.
What is that? That stuffed pizza that's got all of the cheese from Wisconsin in it in one pizza.
I haven't had the stuffed pizza. I'm not sure about it.
It's a lot. I mean, it's nice, but it's a lot.
Ed, I love pizza, and I love you're the pizza man, but I got to tell you, buddy, as your friend, I'm really worried about your cholesterol.
Oh, my cholesterol stream is fine.
Okay.
There's enough blood in there.
Wow, this conversation just got really serious.
I have my cholesterol, and I know part of it is in part because I used to deliver pizzas for Lou Malnati's when I was in college, and all I ate when I was working was pizza. And I just, it's like if you don't watch what you're eating when you're younger, but if you got it under control, Ed, just want to let you know I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, I keep it down to like 1 or 2 heart attacks a week, I used to have a habit, but, I'm much better now.
Good.
All right. Awesome. Well, we're going to start off the show tonight. Oh, how fun. Hey, Lorianne.
How about that?
What's up? Yeah, look at that. I get around. What can I say? Tonight we're actually starting off the show with a very special guest. Her name is Jessica Lee, and she is an organizer with Solidarity Sundays in Logan Square, and a managing partner and an Erewhon Atlas. At Erewhon Atlas. Ooh, I hope I'm saying that. Erewhon Atlas. And she's also partnering with Abortion as Fuck or Abortion AF on Operation Save Abortion. And that is what she's mainly here to talk with us about tonight. So let's welcome Jessica Lee to the show. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I was very, very excited. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really pumped that you're here, and I'm also excited that you might stick around for other conversation not pertaining to the abortion conversation. And I'd love to hear your take on it because I know that you are extremely politically involved around the city and that you have some great perspectives just based on your own many experiences. So speaking of your many experiences in politics, give us a little bit about your background. Who are you? What have you done? What have you worked on? What have been some of your big wins and maybe some of your big losses too? Because I feel like I feel like we should, shout our losses out as well as activists and organizers. So take it away.
Well, I can say I've been doing this for 30 years and Roe's about to be overturned. So I feel like that is collectively the largest loss any of us could have. I'm feeling it very personally right now. And I know a lot of people who are. I got involved with community organizing and activism when I was in college, like a lot of other people. I became involved with an Indigenous rights group. And from there, I kind of got involved in the idea of policing, but also something that we were very involved with in Florida was rights for migrant workers. And, from there, it's just always been something I was involved in. When we moved back to Chicago to start a family, just being part of, like, Chicago's got such a great community. And, for a long time I had kids and I was a single mom. And so I had to kind of step back. And then when I was able to sort of get back into it, it was 2, 3, 4 years where we were celebrating all these great wins, right? Shout our wins. It was a great moment when we got a marriage equity and equality in Chicago for gay and lesbian people. Like, that was a great moment. And, I could remember thinking back to when I was in high school, right? And people being assaulted and harassed, for being gay. This was back in those days. So it really felt like, wow, I've come such a long way. Like, the first time I took my kids to a pride parade, what an incredible win that was. I have 2 kids. One is 19 and is off in college. And then I have another kiddo, and who's almost 16, which is really something to think about. But I, like to say that I've always involved them in everything that I do and really talk to them like they were adults about these issues. And, looking at them and think, well, how am I going to make their lives a little bit better? How are we creating a better world for them and, the generations that come after them? So that's sort of how I got involved. And it was about, 2015, 2016, when I realized that just being involved in the organizing side of things, just being a volunteer on that side, I really need to get involved in local politics, right? Mm-hmm. Local politics are where things get done. And so I just started volunteering with candidates and campaigns, all on the local level. And then, I was a field director in an aldermanic race. And I just sort of realized that, we will never have free and fair elections in Chicago until it is easier for people to have access to that ballot, until it is easier for people to run for office. The incumbency advantage is real. And in Chicago, we make it worse. We make it so hard for people to run a race and get on the ballot. And it's not just money, but it's institutions, it's technology, it is gatekeepers who, don't tell people what they need to know. And so my entire goal has been, well, I'm an economist by education. So I'm like, well, we can lower that barrier of entry, right? We can make it easier for people to get on the ballot to run for office. Like, and if, I know I'm not here to talk about politics, but one thing I will say is that it is not enough for us to ask people of color and women to run, right? There's been this emphasis the last 4 years. You should run. We want you to run for local races. No, that's not good enough. We need to show up for those candidates. Yeah. We need to knock doors for them. We need to make phone calls for them. We need to give them money. So, as part of my work, I've always been focused on reproductive justice. Back in Florida, it was the days when people had to wear flak jackets when they were outside abortion clinics, doing escorting. We're just about back there now. And so this partnership I've had with Abortion Access Front, or Abortion as fuck, as we like to say, has gone back to, several years. Like, I really try to promote their events when they're in Chicago. I try to point people their way because they're just an amazing organization that is focused on helping the people who are working in clinics, the people who are manning the phones at abortion funds, the people who are doing the nitty-gritty, really difficult work. And so that's something I've always had a passion for. And so I've been very blessed to know those people.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you've been incredibly busy. I have a fly hanging around here, so I apologize. I'm like swatting and stuff. It sounds like you've definitely had your hands full with a lot of action. Mm-hmm. And today, we are, it's funny you talk about like, here's what I'm out to do. Here's what I'm out to create. And, I have not a similar calling to you, but my calling inside the political sphere, I very much feel is like getting people into action. Like that has always been one of my number one goals inside of everything that I do in the political sphere is how do I get more people involved, which is largely why I ended up on this show, right? Because I wanted to reach people on a local level to show them who's out there, what's out there, what they can go do. Because like I've been saying and screaming from the rooftop on another show that I'd been on for 3 years, Hardlens Media, we need all hands on deck. Like nowsies, if we actually want to shift from the direction we're going in, which is extremely right wing at this point.
Terrifying.
Yeah, and extremely terrifying. So give us an idea of the landscape we're dealing with here in Illinois and specifically Chicago. Do you have an idea of like the surrounding states and what they have insofar as like trigger laws, or even, maybe they even have like sort of stifled access now beyond trigger laws? Because I do believe that there are some states surrounding us now that have really tight laws. So give us a little bit of an idea of the landscape that we're dealing with.
Right. So the actual case that's in front of the Supreme Court is Dobbs. And what Dobbs originally was a 15-week abortion ban. And that is a direct contradiction to not Roe versus Wade, but actually Casey versus Planned Parenthood, which stated that until viability, a woman or a person, a person has the right to get an abortion until viability. That was the ruling in Casey. So 15 weeks is significantly before viability. No fetus is viable at 15 weeks. And it basically was a case that was floated up for this moment, right? Because of the makeup of the Supreme Court now. And so what will happen when this ruling comes out? Again, I am assuming that the ruling that's going to drop this week is the ruling we've already seen, because I have no reason to believe otherwise, is that states that already have what you mentioned, trigger laws, so they already have laws on the books, those will immediately go into effect. And every single state that shares a land border with Illinois will have some kind of a law that will immediately go into effect. Mm-hmm. I do know that in Michigan, there's been a huge ballot referendum and a push to change that in Michigan. So we are still holding out hope for our brothers and sisters there. There's a lot of money being spent on that ballot referendum. There's a lot of, really trying to get people to the polls, and a lot of really great organizing that's going on around that. But that doesn't exist in Wisconsin. In fact, Wisconsin already has a law in the books that says if you are a pregnant person and the state does not believe that you're going to act responsibly enough in your pregnancy, they can lock you up. That already exists in Wisconsin. If you want to know where we're going with the criminalization of people. And so obviously below us, Kentucky, the same thing. Indiana, there are some really amazing clinics in Indiana, some that are right up against the border here in Chicago, where the people who work there have just been harassed terribly over the last 5, 6, 10 years. And so we are constantly hearing stories from them. So it's really, really rough in states like that. So what we are looking at here in Illinois is that all of our Midwestern brethren are basically going to be coming here to get an abortion if they want a surgical abortion. And I'm sure that's something we'll get into in a bit. But what we also know is that those same people who are stalking our good clinic workers in Indiana, who are stalking them in Kentucky, they have already said they will come into Illinois. And they have already stepped up their threats.
I'm sorry. Can you take it? I missed what you just said. Who's claiming they're going to come into Illinois? I missed what you said there.
These groups that are very anti-abortion. So these are your right to life, your right wing.
These relate to what you shared in the email about the threat to clinics and providing safe passage for women that need to get treatment. I think.
Absolutely.
That's the part you're alluding to. Okay.
In Chicago, I've been to, what they call actions, to counter protest them in front of our own clinics. And there's actually a surprising amount of anti-abortion sentiment that you can even see in Chicago. But at a place like the Hope Clinic that is in Southern Illinois, they are already seeing a ratchet up of threats. They're already seeing violent protesters.
I can understand that downstate. I am clearly, honestly, vehemently pro-choice, but when it was referenced in the email that there was a concern for violence in Chicago, I'm like, I've never seen it here before in abortion clinics, Planned Parenthood in Chicago. I can understand it happening downstate in more conservative areas of the state, but when you had mentioned that in the email before, when we were talking about this on the show, I was kind of surprised that could potentially be a legitimate threat, because I don't know that would be tolerated in the city of Chicago, but if you've got ears out there that it's something that we got to be, vigilant about, then, this was interesting to me.
Oh, I'm going to take that one step further. I'm telling you right now that your right to get an abortion in Illinois is not guaranteed. I know a lot of people feel like we have done the right thing here in the state and we have passed the right laws. If fetal personhood passes on a federal level, it will not matter. And you know what? I would have said 5 years ago that there's no way white supremacists would feel comfortable marching in the streets of Chicago, but they do.
Oh, right? they still get confronted though. But yeah,
do,
I understand your point. So the issue that you just mentioned, I'm sorry, what is the fetal? What is
fetal
that?
Personhood. Fetal
personhood. Now, does the Supreme Court have the ability to pass that along with knocking down Roe versus Wade so that it would suddenly change the laws here?
They do not. That is not something that is within the scope.
Okay.
Of Dobbs, but one of the things that we heard when we listened to the oral arguments of Dobbs was this focus on the fetus.
Okay.
Right. This focus on, what, all these different scenarios, like, what if this happens? What if this happens? They all sort of, these questions that are being asked in this context are to eventually put forward, sort of lay that groundwork for when a case surrounding fetal personhood comes to the court. And that's probably going to be fairly quickly. There are states like Florida, like Texas, that are floating fetal personhood provisions. Oklahoma is floating fetal personhood. And so one of those states will probably pass something that looks like fetal personhood. Once that happens, it will get argued up to the Supreme Court. And that point, the Supreme Court will be able to say one way or the other how they feel about it.
I see.
Yeah. And, Jerry, you had brought that up. So I got personally curious inside of that curiosity that you had.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good point. Let's look just in general at acts of violence regarding abortion, right? Because you do see it, a lot inside of our media, like, oh, look at all these like really angry protesters, blah, blah, blah. But I know that a lot of us can't really trust what we see fully in our media these days. Not that you can necessarily trust this from Ms. Magazine, but I was just like, let me do a few searches. Mm-hmm. And, I saw some great stories that sort of contextualize it all. But then I found this matching sort of graph here that kind of creates everything in a nice, neat little pretty picture. And we have from 1977 to 2020, acts of anti-abortion violence included at least, we see 11 murders.
Oh wait, pro-life people are attempting to murder people? That's a contradiction. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's like I couldn't help it. It's like, yeah, there's the contradiction of pro-lifers who love the fetus, hate the child. Once, a woman is forced to bring a child into the world, if she I got to state this. Also, I want to say this, Jessica. When we talk about being abortion is not an easy decision for anybody. Mm-hmm. Any woman to make, anybody, if it's a decision between parents. I can't imagine anybody's pro-abortion so much as pro-choice. So when we look at the situation and discuss it, for people that are thinking that this is like some rally to like just kill fetuses, and like to do that it's okay to like kill other people who might be making that decision. Or it's interesting that, like, to me, all the pro-life people want to force women into their own morality, judge them, but then when a child is born, And that woman who had a tough choice to make depending on her circumstances can't care for that child, can't feed that child, can't find. Look, I mean, I'm not if I were a woman, I'm sorry if I'm going to sound politically incorrect here. I know as a male, some people might say I have no room to say this, but if I was a woman and I had to face that choice, I don't know that I could do it. I would probably have the child, right? But that doesn't mean I have the right to tell other women what to choose. So when you've got pro-life people that are so vehemently pushing their sense of morality, it's just so interesting to me that they don't have a care in the world for that child once the child's in the world, which speaks a moment ago to like, what, they're murdering people even though they're pro-life? That's just the whole the whole faith-based argument on I'm going to, push my morality on you. And it's like, it's not your place to push your morality on me. If I'm a woman and I've got to make that choice, that's between me, perhaps the father, and perhaps the God of whatever faith I choose to follow. And I'm agnostic. I'm just saying that out of respect for people who are, who believe in things. So it's funny when, Kira, you brought up that graphic. It's like they want to conduct violence to save lives that they will then not give a shit about once the child is born and has needs that perhaps a mother cannot provide. If more pro-life people focused on, geez, can we perhaps find homes for orphans? Can we perhaps provide social safety nets for women? Can we provide the support that they need, along with maybe espousing their religious convictions as it comes to life? It would make more sense to me, I guess. But what do I know?
Yeah, and a lot of that violence was some of the stuff that I was reading up on, Jessica, before you came on the show, because I wanted to be prepared. A lot of what I was reading when I'm looking at this Ms. Magazine graph here is that there are 956 threats of harm or death, 667 bomb threats. So we have what's that, 15, almost 1,600 threats in that period of time, bomb threats, death threats. And that has actually led to a lot of the shuttering of abortion clinic before any of this overturn conversation even started. So we've already been seeing people from other states coming into the state of Illinois for abortion. In fact, I do have a few little on that. Nearly 10,000 women traveled from out of state to have an abortion in Illinois in 2020. And that's a 29% increase compared to the previous year already. And this is before anything got shifted inside of, what our bodily autonomy is going to be looking like. So we can only assume that's going to increase a lot. And go ahead.
I say then the important thing, I think, as you read that off, like Dobbs, for example, is the only remaining abortion clinic in Mississippi. Or it is a case regarding whole woman's health down there. But I think we need to acknowledge that we're having this conversation, again, in Illinois. For a lot of people in a lot of states, Roe has effectively ended for the reason that you just mentioned, Kira. Right? There's a lot of people who simply cannot travel, who cannot get access, and whose lives are already being impacted by this.
But the people with means and money are going to be unencumbered from doing what they want to do. That's the other hypocrisy of the situation, is that you're punishing poor and indigent and people that, might have a tougher choice to make than, some people who can afford to go do it in another state because they can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Chicago is investing, $500 million to help provide abortion. Is that going to be enough? Where else is funding going to come from? How is this going to work? And I think that this is a great segue and leads us right into the event that you're helping to organize with Abortion Access Fund. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. And, that's, when you were talking about action, Kira, right? You got to have an action. Mm-hmm. There were 2 rallies in Chicago about, this whole, overturning of Roe. And I heard a lot of people being told to vote, and I didn't hear people being given any other tools for action. And so that's just something that, we really need to start talking about. And, The majority of clinics that still provide abortion care are small, independent clinics. They're not Planned Parenthood. They're not associated with larger networks. And this is a good thing, by the way. This is a good thing. They have been inundated with calls from people saying, how do I help? How do I volunteer? The problem is they're so tiny that they're like, I don't have a staff person to organize volunteer training because I'm tiny, right? This is where Abortion AF steps in. And so Abortion AF has said, great, we are going to do a day of action, a day of training. And what we're going to do is you're going to leave these events ready to plug in at a clinic, ready to plug in at a fund, ready to plug in however you feel you can best contribute. And so there's a lot of things that we can do. Like I said, obviously escorting at clinics is a very obvious one. We're going to talk about that. But other things like answering the phone calls for an abortion fund, help connect people with that money, because 500 million is probably not going to be enough. Like, it's great that the city is doing that. We're going to have to watch really carefully how that money gets spent.
No doubt. No doubt.
Like, I would be fine if the city simply gave that money to Chicago Abortion Fund and Midwest Access Coalition, because I know they would spend it right. I'm not sure how the Chicago Department of Health is going to spend it. But, you know, there's a lot of, like, for example, I'm disabled. We're in a pandemic. I don't feel comfortable leaving my home that often. So how can I plug in from home? How can we help? And so that's basically what this day is going to be about. And it's not just going to be about, you know, that kind of training, but also really talking about, you know, how does Plan C work? You know, I am an ambassador with Plan C, and one of the things I have realized as a 5-year-old woman, I don't know how my reproductive system really worked. I just spat out 2 babies. Like, I knew how I got pregnant, and then they came.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't know how to, you know, there's a lot about the woman's reproductive system that we're just not taught. Like, so there's a lot of great information. So much. Right?
I'm still learning. I'm still working. I work in movement and fitness, and I'm just like still learning all of the ins and outs of, you know, the reproductive system, even the vagina, all of that. I'm just like, what? Really?
Yeah, it's, you know, and I, you know, never realized, like, I never really thought about Plan C before, but obviously for a lot of people, Plan C is going to be a way to get an abortion if they know how to get it. Right. There are ways that people can get Plan C no matter where they live. They just have to know how. And so we're going to have to help them get there. So you know, we're also going to be talking, quite frankly, about what is going to be necessary. Like, do you feel comfortable? You know, can you share a spare bedroom with someone who comes into Chicago? Okay, I'm going to send you to Midwest Access Coalition because they need volunteers to do that. Can you donate just money? Great. Chicago Abortion Fund needs your cash. Do you feel comfortable talking to people in other states about their, you know, ability to do medical abortion? Not everyone might, because the legality of this is something that's changing daily. Totally understandable. But whatever your comfort level is, however you feel like you can directly engage, we're going to have things for you to do. And what my hope is that coming out of that is that we can sort of build a more coherent network, or more of a safety net, because this isn't the only thing that we're going to have to help people with, right? We're going to have to help relocate the parents of trans kids. We're going to have to help find opportunities for people who are facing white supremacist violence in other states. Like, we are going to have to start building those networks now. And this is a great time to start really doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, these kinds of situations are often what we see not only in the activist and organizing community, but in the entrepreneurial community too. Absolutely. That triggers innovation, right? And so that, you know, this is where all of that begins, and it's in these grassroots meetings. So I want to just really quick display the Operation Save Abortion event that you are helping to organize here, so that people can know exactly what they can do, how to get signed up, and all of that. So here's the page here, and just tell us a little bit about what we're seeing.
Absolutely. So my address is not on that page because I am a private citizen and things are scary. But I will say I live in Logan Square. I live in Avondale. I have a large backyard, and that's where we are hoping to host this. If it's really sunny out, I'll put a tent up in my backyard. We are being as understanding as we can be about the fact that we're in a pandemic. So if you are like, I still don't feel comfortable coming to an in-person event, Operate Save Abortion is going to be live streaming. So you can see the live stream at home.
Wow. Nice. And do people have to register to get the live stream link too?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can go to also, the event that you're showing now is the event to come to my house, which I encourage people to sign up for. I'll be sending out more information, including the address, as we get closer to the date. But if you're like, no, I want to kind of watch it from the privacy of my own home, you can go to OperationSaveAbortion.org, and you'll be able to sign up there to get the live stream from the privacy of your own home. And I cannot stress this enough. Abortion AF throws fabulous events. I have never not laughed my way through an event with them. And we're hoping to do some fun things to sort of break up. It's going to be a long day, but we're hoping to have some fun things. I'm working on my Supreme Court Justice's pinata.
I have to go.
And we're also thinking about trying to bring back the Future Voices PAC. Used to do a really fun event every year, which was vibrator races in order to raise money for
Do you have to bring your own vibrator, or do you just pick one from a pile? Okay.
We're looking to source the vibrator so you don't have to bring your own. But then, we're going to stick faces on them and send them down a ramp and see which one wins.
Okay, I just have.
It reminds me of being in Cub Scouts with little racers on the ramp.
I got one ridiculous question.
Yes.
Did anybody ever get disqualified for performance enhancements?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go now.
That's a great question.
That's right. I wonder how you would perform it. I mean, would it be a special kind of battery? I don't know.
You'd have to grease it.
That's right.
See, this can be funny, though. Reproductive justice, all activism ought to come with some humor.
I couldn't agree with you more. And in fact, whenever I think back on a lot of the things that I've been involved with personally, I find that there's certainly a correlation between the amount of fun the organization had and our success.
Yes.
Largely, and how much of a personal connection all of the volunteers had with one another and with leadership. So I do think that there is something to be said about bringing fun into the fold, which is largely another thing that I tend to bring in. I know my place, okay? So this is your backyard organization. One of the questions that came up for me as you were talking is something that I had a conversation with my husband like weeks ago, and we have a spare bedroom. And I said to him, hey, like we should really consider opening up a bedroom for people who need access to abortion when that time comes, like because people are going to need a place to stay. And he brought up, and this kind of just brings in like what your efforts are doing, and also this former conversation that we had in regard to violence, right? He said, well, what if we get somebody who's faking and like comes after us, right? And so I was wondering, do you have any insight of like how you would actually stop something like that from happening?
So the Midwest Access Coalition is an amazing organization. They've been very, very active in bringing people to Chicago to get abortions for many, many years. And they take care of all of the screening you might be thinking about with that. Now, I know they put a hiatus on in-person visiting, like while the pandemic was going on. Like they stopped like having people rent up, use their spare rooms for that when that was going on. Understandably, I think they've gone back to it, but I'd have to double check. But these are patients who they have helped set up their abortion appointment. They have helped them get funding through Chicago Abortion Fund if funding's an issue. They know the people that they would be sending, and they would obviously coordinate with you, like, hey, we have someone coming in, is this night okay? And if you're like, well, I want to be in, my in-laws house that night doesn't work, great, they go on to the next person on the list. So, and also too, that whole idea of violence, about being afraid of being targeted, that's another reason Abortion AF is sort of doing these events, is to sort of help provide a sort of central vetting group, a central place for vetting, so that the volunteers can go through the training and are vetted, so that the clinics know they're not getting people who are secretly going to sneak in and harass them. That's a thing. And to be fair, we do it to the other side too. We keep an eye on what they're doing. We monitor their events. So it's, but yeah, so there are organizations that are set up in order to make this, safe and convenient and easy.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that's what I said to my husband. I was like, I'm guessing there's a thing. And so when I saw your event, I think that was really what instigated, like, I should reach out to Jessica about this because I'm curious about it personally. And if I'm curious about it, and in your email, you listed all the variety of ways that a person can get involved that doesn't look like, what people might assume your classic, like getting involved in politics or political action looks like. I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to get you on here and talk with people about what it is they can do. Inside of that context, is there anything else you'd like to add that maybe we didn't touch on or cover that you want to make sure that we tell our audience?
I think we've pretty much, covered the basics. I think, again, I just want to sort of stress that as we talk about this, going back to what I had said before, we remember the people who are directly impacted. We have to remember the people who've been doing this for 30 years and have been begging for help and are now sort of finally getting it. And, we have to sort of take our lead from the people on the ground who've really been entrenched in this issue for a long time. And a lot of those people on the ground are women of color. And they're the voices that we got to follow and the people we need to listen to. And so the things that I am talking about, the things that I suggest that people do, those are things that are coming from those clinics. They're coming from those on the ground organizations and are saying, here's what we need. An example of why that's important is because if there is one thing everyone I know who works at a clinic has said, is they have said, do not show up at our clinic when Roe falls. We don't want you here because it's going to be a difficult day for us, but B, we're still going to have patients that day. And we don't want you getting into fights with the anti-abortion protesters because you know who that doesn't serve? It doesn't serve the people who need our care. So they're like, stay away, do these other things instead. And there have been some groups that have popped up and have shown up at clinics across the South, saying that they're there in solidarity. But what they've really done is created headaches for the clinics themselves and made it more difficult for patients to access care in these last few weeks that we've had access to Roe. So, I always root my activism around the voices of those who are directly impacted by what is happening. And that's where my actions on abortion are coming from.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming, for sharing, for doing everything it is you've done over the last 3 decades, everything that you're doing today. It's just really a breath of fresh air. I'm so grateful I got to meet you.
Yes.
And that I am inside of your sphere now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, Jerry or Ed, sorry, Ed, I said I wouldn't call on you in today's show. Do you have any questions or anything you'd like to add before we move on to the next topic?
I shared this with you in an email, Kira. And I'm going to share this, Jessica, in all support for what you're doing, okay? People could get very combative just on the face of this is a save abortion rally. Is it about saving abortion or is it about saving choice? I would only gently take it for what it's worth in support of protecting women's ability and right to choose. I hate to make this a matter of branding, but I just wonder if you might win more hearts and minds to supporting a woman's right to choose if it's framed as right to choose as opposed to right to abort. And I say that as someone who is absolutely supportive of a woman's right to choose and control her body and do what she feels, make the choice that she needs to make based on her circumstances. So there's a couple comments in the chat. And you know what, it's your show, Kira, but I just want to address one thing here.
Sure.
We have a live chatter named No Freedoms who mentioned earlier, if you don't want an abortion, close your legs. Well, you know what?
Well, their name is No Freedoms. What else do you think someone who's named No Freedoms is going to say?
That's a moral judgment based on their religion and based on their moral choices that has no place in this argument. You can't dictate sexuality and morality to people. So when you're coming from that perspective, I think that there's probably like some people between No Freedoms and between us who are supportive that might be maybe more responsive to save choice. Win hearts and minds, as far as, because you've got the ones who are on the opposite side, and no offense to No Freedoms, you have a right to your opinion. If you don't believe in abortion, that's fine, but you don't have the right to dictate to other people whether they should open or close their legs, whether they should make a choice for themselves. When, as I said, early in the broadcast, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think anybody is pro-abortion as much as they are pro-choice, because it's a very, very personal decision to have to make that's related to a lot of emotional, a lot of very, very painful reflections to make. So, Jessica, please take that with all respect. I'm not telling you, hey, go rename your organization. But when I saw it was the rally to save abortion, I'm just like, there are going to be a lot of people that might react the wrong way to that and think, oh, this is all about, forgive me for saying this, killing babies. No, it's not what this is about. This is about protecting a woman's right. It's a medical decision to make a choice for herself. Choice. So that's all I wanted to add, with all respect and support to what it is that you're doing to make it safer for women who are going to have to come into Illinois, because the Supreme Court decides that they have the right to tell a woman what to do with her body, while men can go get their Viagra covered under their medical insurance, if they have a hard time getting it up, right? To go do whatever they want with a woman. Speaking to No Freedoms here, that doesn't understand it takes two to tango. And, sometimes sexuality and those kind of decisions is not as easy. Well, just close your legs. Sorry, church lady, but, with all due respect to her, the real world doesn't operate that way. Maybe you don't have access to birth control. And No Freedoms, if you're raped, do you expect that woman to bring that child to term? These are the more complicated questions that are related to a woman's right to choose. So as a man who sometimes feels like I have no right to comment on this stuff because I'm not a woman, I'm trying to share what I think and what I feel from a perspective of where I'm coming from as someone who is very much, as I said earlier, if I was a woman, personally, I would probably choose to have the child. But that doesn't mean I have to force my decisions on other people. That's a very personal, private, singular decision. So, Jessica, I hope you take that for what it's worth. Just want to.
Here's what I am going to say to that. I am 100% unapologetically pro-abortion, because abortion's it's a healthcare act. It is a medical procedure. And I think
it is a medical, yeah.
I think and I believe that with all medical procedures, it should be free and available to everyone who needs it, because I also believe that we should have access to medical care free and available. But what I agree. The pro-choice terminology really grew out of, I think, the 1980s and 1990s. And even that alone, I feel like, was us ceding ground, because they say they are pro-life. And so we kind of sort of settled on this, well, we're pro-choice. And we've been ceding ground to them ever since. Like, we have been, the reason we have all these, we keep talking about, oh, but think of the person who's been raped. The person who's been raped is a tragic situation. We need to support that individual. But the person who simply does not want to carry a child to term also should have the right to health care.
I agree. Oh no, I'm in complete agreement with you. I guess it's just a contradiction of those people don't consider that because they make this moral judgment. It's all about whether or not you want to have sex or not. And it's like, that's nobody's business if you want to have sex or not, and make a decision related to what that decision was that, led to a conception.
Yeah, but I can't, like, the people who are staking out that position right now, the difference between them and white supremacists really is non-existent at this point. Kat Green at Abortion AF does a lot of research and can tie the ties between, Operation Rescue and the Proud Boys much better than I can. But they have made up their mind. They have put their flag in the ground and said, no, this is what we believe. And what we have been done ever since Roe is we've been inching closer and closer towards them. And we need to stop doing that. We need to say no. Unapologetically, people have a right to health care. Just like we need to stand up now and say, you know what? Unapologetically, we need to support trans kids. Unapologetically, we need to make sure that Black folks in Georgia can vote. Like, we need to start putting our own flag in the ground and start saying, no, I'm done compromising on this issue. We've been compromising for 40 years. And thanks to some real wishy-washy leadership from the Democratic Party and from our supposed allies in the space, we've lost all of our ground. So at this point, it's like, no, it is a healthcare procedure, and I am going to support anyone who needs it. Period. End of conversation.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot, Jerry, actually, when you wrote that to me in an email. Like, I mean, of course, I had answers to everything that you said to me inside of my own perspective and my own point of view, but I definitely wanted you to ask the question on the show, so I didn't answer the question.
I hope that
I was just like, no, it's a good question. You should ask it, right?
Yeah,
because I've run into this a lot with the defund the police conversation, right?
Yeah.
I am a huge
how you phrase it,
defund the police, but everybody's like, the marketing is bad, all this stuff. And then I brought that to Heartland Media, to Daniel and Pitt, and they're like, hell no, we're not giving up ground on that. We're not, this, that, and the other. And I was like, shit, like, kind of a good point too, So
but you know what, Kira, I think defund the police is shot us on the foot also, because everybody's able to grasp onto that and say, well, that means you want to have anarchy and you don't want to have cops. No, that's not what it means.
In a big way too, though, Jerry. Yeah. And I think it's a really good topic to really comb through and bring up. And then Jessica, on that topic, one of the other things I thought of was like, well, we're not running for an election, so we're not trying to cater to people who don't already on some level agree with us. So utilizing a term like abortion isn't as, like, let's say, offensive as if we're trying to get at a critical mass of people to say, vote for us in an upcoming election. Do you think there's a difference inside of what you say in electoral politics versus activism and organizing?
I would come for anyone looking for a Democratic primary endorsement in Chicago who's not putting pro-abortion on their website right now. And just for the simple fact that unless we use that word without apology, it's going to continue to have a stigma around it that doesn't help anyone who needs healthcare, right? Like, it does. I think, Jerry, what you're saying is absolutely correct. That word has a stigma, and it's got a stigma for a lot of people. And so we need to be prepared to say, look, it's just a healthcare procedure. And you don't have to get one. You don't have to get, but if you want it, if you want healthcare, we have got to make it available to you. That's just our job as a society.
Well, fair enough. I mean, I still think differently, but I respect where you're coming from, and I understand why you feel that it's ceding ground. I guess, different people just would approach the task at hand to try to message differently, but I support and respect and admire what you're doing to make a difference here, to provide safe health care for women who are being denied it, wherever whatever other state's going to shut doors on them. So,
yeah. Cool.
I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, ultimately, we all want the same thing. We want to protect
women
people who are coming in, and protect again the brave people who work at these clinics, because their lives it's been really rough on them these last couple of years. And this week it's like hug a clinician day. Like, one of the things we do whenever we have a Solidarity Sunday meeting or we get together for an event is we just write cards of thanks to people who work in clinics. Very simple, you know, and it has to be a postcard because they don't open mail on site because that's a thing. But it's one of the things we're going to be doing in July is we're going to be writing postcards of thanks to all the clinics that are still open.
Awesome. That's so great. And I have the link for Operation Save Abortion at the bottom. How do people get signed up for Solidarity Sunday emails and get involved with that?
Yeah, you can absolutely follow me on Twitter. I'm at Logan Soul Sun. My Twitter is not for the faint of heart because I'm tired. And I don't have shits left to give. I just don't.
Well, I'm with you on that. I have the same attitude. So, good for you.
I'm tired.
For you. My filters are gone too when I argue certain political things with people who are intolerant of like listening and maybe sharing ideas as opposed to just shutting the other person down. So,
So also, you can reach out to me personally if you want to help with this event. The more the merrier. I'm at logansoulsun@gmail.com. You have my email address. And then also too, we do have a website. When I can, keep it going, that is the same thing. It is logansoulsun.org. And all of our actions, I want to try to get much better about posting them online. We also have a Facebook group, but just reach out to me at any of those places and I'd be happy to get you involved. I'd be happy to talk to you about coming to our event or is that you can plug and see or a volunteer at a clinic or a fund. We're not getting through this unless we all. But your pitching in doesn't have to be, 20 hours a week. It can be 2 or 3. But if we're not getting through these next couple of years unless we start to really come together in community.
Right. Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
And community is fun. I don't want to end on a sour note. Community is fun.
Community is the best. Community is the best.
Yes.
It really, really is. It's one of my go-tos if I'm just not feeling good about life or myself or my work or whatever. It's like, what do I need to do? I need to get into community like ASAP. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and move on because we have some fun stuff to cover. And we're going to start off with the funnest of things to start off with, which is dun, 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 election. And Jessica's going to stick around and give some commentary of her own, which I'm super excited about because we weren't sure if that was going to happen. But she said, I saw that you're covering elections. So I had to stick around. So early voting for primary elections are underway right now, as many of us know. And our official voting day for primaries is next week on Tuesday.
How much campaign literature is stuffing your mailbox from the person running and the person who hates them that's running against them?
To be fair, I'm one of these people that are going door to door, so I can't talk.
In my neighborhood, it's Denise Stonebeck. I'm getting stuff from her all the time, and I'm getting stuff from her opponents talking about how I haven't even read into it all about, gun control and stuff like that. I'm just like, I'll look at it the couple days before election day, just all this clutter. It's important to be informed before you go to the primary, but I'm like, wow, that's a really contested seat.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to tell us a little bit more about where you're at and what you see going on the ground there, Jerry. Just make sure, if you plan on voting, that you have a plan in place. But I wanted to be of service and give everybody a little bit of a landscape of what they can expect to see on their ballots. So actually, I want to share with everybody a resource that I have been using for a long time.
I think I know which one it is. Maybe I'm wrong, but there's a good one out there in Chicago.
Oh, is there really? Because if you have a resource,
what's yours?
Girl, I guess.
That's the one.
That's it.
I take that list into the booth with me, and I'm just like, check. I read it at home before I take it with.
Oh, yeah.
But generally, it's it's progressive, it's left-leaning, it's like they're able to analyze the candidates so you don't have to go through pages and pages and pages of Google searches to like pinpoint what is right or wrong about a specific candidate because they get right to the point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I love what they do over at Girl, I Guess. I've been following them for eons, and just to give you a little background of who this it was, a duo, but now apparently it's just woman. Hopefully, she gets a little cavalry around her soon. But Girl, I Guess, is a Jewish, queer, trans, nerdy, and dedicated to helping members of our community navigate a confusing ballot and identify the most progressive candidates. Stephanie Skora, who authors it, is a grouchy Jewish trans dyke and an anarchist with political science degree. She is one half of the podcast Taco Bagel and COO at Brave Space Alliance, president of the board of the Midwest Institute for Sexuality and Gender Diversity, and a founding advisor of the Trans Liberation Collective. So she's a busy lady. Okay.
Mhm.
And she puts this together, and like I said, there was one other woman that was involved in it before. But yeah, so this voter's guide is flippin' awesome. It is in our description box below. If you want to learn just generally more about Chicago electoral history, and of course who's running and their background, this is where you want to go. And then, every single time election season comes around, just throw in Google or whatever search engine you use, Girl, I Guess, and bring it up, because every single time I look through it, I am floored at how extremely thorough and rigorous and insightful this organization is. They give a very thorough overview of every single candidate running and why they choose who they choose in it. And and also, I gotta say, just to Jessica's point earlier, it's funny as shit.
Yes.
Like if you read through this, it you'll crack up laughing as you go through. So I couldn't recommend this more. And before I dive into anything, I wanna hear what y'all have to say about the upcoming elections. Ed just popped in.
Kira, can I just say I really appreciate the emoji with the hands in the air and the elm shrug, because that's how I feel about a number of the candidates that they're listing here. I'm like, I guess,
Hold my
it's
nose.
kind of rough. It's kind of rough when you're voting in local elections. It's like, on the national side, I tend to like to leave a lot of things blank when there aren't any good options, and sometimes I'll do that in the state too. But it's if I got a third party option, I'm typically taking it, especially when it comes to environmental positions, like water reclamation district. That's got to be, usually a Green Party thing for me. But you don't always have the choice with the Illinois and Chicago machines that operate in this state. Because they have it locked down so tight that so many people have little choice, at least to get their foot in the door, but to run, unfortunately, on a blue ticket, which I can't stand, because I know a lot of people have washed their hands with that party, and I don't blame them for feeling that way.
Yeah, Jessica, did you have anything to say about that? Because you had mentioned how hard it is to get on a ticket in general just earlier. Yeah. So what's your insight on that?
So, as if all you have to do is, be in Chicago for a little bit before you realize there's the Democratic machine, and then there is progressive politics, and, that control that the machine has over the ballot is why our turnout's so low every primary.
Nobody cares. It's like they don't feel like their effort is going to amount to anything because of the control of the machine.
Exactly. Not only that, but just think about it. If you look at the top of our ticket for the state ballot, only one of these races is competitive. Several people running don't even have challengers.
Yep.
And, it is worth it to run a challenger against someone on the left, even if you don't think, because you'll pull that person to the left. We have pulled Pritzker to the left, kicking and screaming, but we have done so. And so, yeah, it is frustrating for me when I look at my ballot and I see all of the races without competition. It really, really kills me. I will also, though, throw a plug for Injustice Watch, because they do for your judges. And I will say that the FOP has made their endorsement. And if the FOP is endorsing anyone, maybe I'm just suggesting there's a reason. And the FOP got really involved in this primary.
Fraternal Order of Police, just to make sure everyone knows who just was talking about.
I was just about to do that. Yep.
The police union.
Yeah.
This is their practice run for the munis. So look at their endorsements. Just Google FOP endorsements. You might be surprised some of the names on there. I know I certainly was. Some of them you're going to look at and say, yeah, I know that guy's a Nazi. So, of course, she's on the. So those are just the two other things I would say. But, voting is not going to save us either. Especially vote blue no matter who.
Fuck no.
No, I actually call it vote blue, my brain is goo.
Right. It has to be a combination of electoral and organizing together. Like going to a ballot box once every 2 years does not make you involved in your civics life.
Well, yeah, we're starting to lean in the direction of using some leverage here. I know we actually started a little manifesto.
Chicago Corner Manifesto,
which we're going to try to use as leverage with the mayoral candidates that are coming up, and we probably need to do that on the state level too, because the truth is every candidate needs to be pushed a whole lot harder than they are being pushed. It's easy for them to just say that they support things just to get your vote, but then they get in office and then they don't do it.
This is everything about Lori Lightfoot. She's broken every promise she made as a progressive reformer, and instead is leaning on her absolute inflexibility as a don't ask me any questions, I'm the prosecutor.
And
she bamboozled everybody.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject,
while using her identity to do so,
because I saw him on that Girl I Guess list, we got to give some a little bit of hassle noise to Junaid Ahmed, who was at the March for Medicare for All and spoke supporting it. And then what are you doing about it, man?
Campaigning on it.
Crickets.
Yeah. When he got up, I hope he's not watching. When he got up on the platform at the March for Medicare for All and said he was there to support Medicare, he wasn't there to campaign, while all of his crew was in the parade holding the signs, while they were marching. I'm just like, dude, if you want to actually convince us of this, don't have your people carrying your campaign signs through the March for Medicare for All parade. There's a time and a place for that. Yeah. And it's just, it's just like, that's the kind of shit that it's like automatically my radar's up. I'm just like that. I have a hard time trusting people.
Like, there's a lack of alignment here.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody who's like a shrug on that Girl I Guess sheet, you know why you're a shrug? Because
the shrug is good. The shrug is good. The golden shrug.
Oh, that's a good sign. Because for me, that's a red flag for me. If they can't give a really strong positive thumbs up, if all they got is a shrug, then that tells me that they're not doing enough of the things that they promised that got them in there in the first place. They got to do better.
Well, it's like the logo. It's like putting your logo next to something. It's the Girl I Guess logo.
Yeah. So that can be confusing, and I think, Ed, that's something great to point out and make sure that our audience is aware of. The golden shrug is when she is really like, this is the person you want to vote for. Anybody who doesn't have a shrug is just like, meh, go for it, I guess.
Miguel H. informs us that it's called a shruggy.
I'm not cool enough to know what they're called.
Me neither. But actually, Ed, to your point, I actually went and had to make sure that was the case, because I wasn't sure, because it's like a shrug, right? And I was like, does that mean that it's like I don't know
so
about
this? So that's supposed
to
be a good thing on this list?
Yes, on the Girl I Guess list, when her logo is next to the candidate, that is a good thing.
Wait, so then the ones that don't have that's worse?
It's not that it's worse. It's just that they're not endorsed.
Oh, okay.
We'll put it that way.
All
Like,
right.
of the candidates, this one's the best, but I don't endorse them.
All right. Well, girl, I guess if you are watching us, you might want to give some of those golden shrugs a second pass.
Maybe they could put little hearts on the top of their hands.
Yeah, little. The one thing that is nice though about the Girl I Guess guide is that they go through every candidate, not just the candidates they endorse. You know, when you see candidates in Chicago being endorsed by any organization, you just got to stop and think, okay, where's this money really coming from? I'm in the new 3rd congressional district, and oh boy, the money being spent in my district.
Oh man, that's the Newman,
Oh.
Sean Casten situation, isn't it?
The new congressional district. So the two main candidates are Bill and Delia.
Oh, Delia Ramirez. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And that, like, I cannot tell you, like, man, someone spent money on ads during the NBA finals. I was like, what are you doing? No one's like, no. It's going to be, if you think that's going to be crazy, the governor's race in November is going to be
We're starting
enough
to
money.
lose you on the stream there, Jessica.
Jess,
I'm sorry.
are you hardwired in or Wi-Fi?
I'm on Wi-Fi. Is my Wi-Fi starting to?
A little
Okay.
bit. I don't know if you have an ability to patch in a cord. It might improve the signal, but just letting you know. It's getting a little bit blocky and you're kind of choppy.
All right, I will see if I can do that. But yeah, just look at the money. If you have any questions, just look at where they're getting their money from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually did a few opensecrets.org searches because there's already,
Go to
shit
Illinois.
being flung.
Another
Go
good
ahead.
another good resource, Illinois Sunshine. You can see who's donating to every candidate in Illinois. I was
Is
trying to
that
connect the or you Google it, Illinois Sunshine. I was trying to connect the dots between Lightfoot and her decision to give Bally's the casino. There weren't any direct donations to her, but I did see some donations from entities related to Bally's, the law firm and stuff, donating to a lot of Chicago aldermen. So, conflict of interests, maybe.
100%. Well, and actually, we're going to get in. I'm just looking for this Illinois Sunshine because I'm very curious.
Yeah, Illinois Sunshine. It's a great resource. You can type in a candidate.
.org.
Yeah,
Isn't
that's
it great? Did you find it?
Yeah, I found it.
Great resource.
Here, I'll just share it with the audience so they can get an idea of what it looks like, so that they can get as excited as I am about it. Right? So keep an eye on money in Illinois politics.
Yep.
Well, Jerry, I don't know if
Connect the
you know
dots.
this about me. I don't know if you know this about me, but opensecrets.org is like one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. It's a great site. I'm familiar with it
And
also.
so this one, of course, you've like completely
This
got
is
my
more-
feelers up.
Wow.
It's more hyper focused on Illinois, though. So,
Yeah,
that's
but
why.
just look at the totals on that. That Illinois
Oh,
House.
I'll go back. I'll go back.
11.7 billion in total of money flowing into that. Think of what good all of that
Holy
money could be
buckets.
doing.
Yep. There you go.
If we weren't using it on stupid politics.
Putting it into Chicago infrastructure, putting it into mental health clinics, putting it into youth centers, putting it into everything we're screaming from the rooftops about every week to create proactive solutions instead of the reactive ones that do nothing.
And that's just the 7th district, according to this.
I know. Well, that's what I'm looking at is like, that's cuckoo for Cocoa Puff. That's why I thought you brought it up. Like, holy cow,
Yeah.
it's just the 7th
insane.
congressional district?
That's the elites. Look, it's the corporate states of America. Illinois is it's corporations, banks, everybody. They run everything, man. I'm starting to get very nihilistic about all this stuff. Like, as much as I'm trying to like figure out how do we find solutions, I'm overwhelmed by like it's the rebels against the empire. It's just too. It's insurmountable. It's like we're trying to do what we can locally through activism, through communication, through sharing, and it's just like. But when you see all that money that they have, that's what it's like. How do you break through that, man? How do you break through that influence that's associated with who can throw as much money as they can as our elected representatives who are really only representing the people giving the money all the time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually, I did want to step into talking about even more funding for elections. But before I walk into that conversation, I'm curious about y'all's like perception of this. Is there a race that you are watching? Like, is there a race that's being contested right now that you are closely watching and maybe even involved in? I'll start with you, Jessica.
Well, obviously, I have a vested interest in Delia Ramirez. I volunteered for her campaign when she first ran for House and
I did too. How did we not meet before? This is insane.
I don't know. I knocked on doors for her. So I like to think that her thank you postcards are something that she kind of and so she's great. Like, I am devastated that she's leaving local politics because she's such a powerful local voice. But if she can get elected federal stage to be a voice, then that's great. I'm also kind of curious to happen first because there's 20 people on the ballot, and I do actually have a vested interest in that race. But 20 people.
It's like the Republican primary of like 2016, right? There's so many.
Yes. And there are some great local House races, like local Illinois House races that have been really strange, but kind of fun to watch.
I love that. Awesome. How about for you, Jerry?
Oh, I have an annual primary tradition that I always save for the weekend before the primary election.
Yeah.
And it's to go and research and study Girl, I Guess. So I haven't put the time in yet, but I will this weekend.
I love it. I'm so glad that I got to share that today because
it's a great website.
It's like election research, and I was like, why am I not going to Girl, I Guess? What am I doing?
I forgot the name of it, but it's like I know which one she's talking about. So if she remembers the name, I'm like, yeah, that's the one I use, and I'm glad you reminded me of the name, so I can do my research this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely, cool, awesome, yay! I'm glad that I could do that. How about for you, Ed? Any particular
I'm not really
race that you're watching?
Any particular race, just having a list to start with to find out who's running and who's like trying to hold on to their seat to see who still deserves to hang on to that seat. When it's like I would get to a point where I want to find out. At least in the districts that I'm in. I think I'm still in the 3rd district. I don't know. They just changed my ward in that weird puzzle map that they just came out with. Mm-hmm. But I think I'm still in the 3rd. But other things like I want to know. Oh, what was it? I want to know if Fritz Kage's going to keep his job.
Yeah, that's an interesting one to bring up, Ed. Actually, yeah. Given there was a lot of controversy with everybody thinking he was the big progressive reformer, everybody's taxes went up, and he gave some explanations for it.
For those who don't know, Fritz Kage is the Cook County assessor.
Yeah, who determines our property taxes. And one of the explanations he gave for the property taxes going up was because during COVID, money that they would normally collect from businesses to offset costs weren't being collected because all the businesses were shut down during the pandemic. Now, I can understand that. There's some logic to that. But then another report came out where they were giving breaks to owners of really, really, I think Tammy Duckworth was one. Veterans were getting a huge tax break even though they were married to able-bodied spouses and had more money than those who are struggling who can't keep up with their property taxes. It was clearly like, look, I have all the respect in the world for Tammy Duckworth. I'm disabled myself. So but when I see that like there are rich people with mansions who are taking advantage of that exemption when they've got a lot of money and they're married to like a spouse who's making a lot of money while everybody else is struggling to pay the extra burden of property taxes because businesses shut down and weren't giving taxes to the assessor. I don't know, man. I think Kage dropped the ball on some things.
Right.
Yeah, all I know is my property taxes went through the roof, and I mean, it's I don't live in a mansion. I don't understand. It's like he made it sound like it was supposed to be some kind of thing that made everything more fair or equitable
Yes, and it wasn't.
or accurate, and it just sounded to me like just bad timing for him to decide to balance out the books here in in one of the worst downturns in the economy in known history.
Guys, I have some advanced video from the upcoming primaries next week.
Okay, show us.
Oh, I'm supposed to do music. Do, 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 do.
All right, enough of that.
That's pretty good. Yeah, and I actually am watching that 7th congressional race because that's where I'm voting inside of, and it is Danny Davis versus Kina Collins.
That's gonna be interesting.
Kina Collins ran already previously, and now she's running again against Danny Davis. Danny Davis is ingrained Chicago progressive politician for the most part, missing a lot of work, super duper old.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, I think the biggest conversation around that whole race is just like GTFO. Like, let's go.
We don't need our local Dianne Feinstein or Nancy Pelosi. We need some fresh blood in there that understands what younger generations need, how the citizens need to be served. It's like it's hard to like say we need term limits or we need to like limit people because of their age. Look, for all of his faults, Bernie Sanders still got it together at his age, where other politicians close to his age, Feinstein, Pelosi, are just like they should have been put in an old person's home already because they've clearly lost a lot of cognitive abilities. But at a certain point, remember, running for office and representing, your district was meant to be a part-time. It was never meant to be a career. Political service was never meant to be the career that so many people have made it. And while I understand, some candidates get in there, they feel that they've got work to do over a couple terms at a certain point. Great. Groom somebody, mentor somebody who can carry those reins forward and bring in new ideas also. And it's out of the conversation, and it's
and bullshit. Then you put your name behind it, and you put your money behind them, and then you continue a legacy through passing on the baton.
Yeah, Ilhanner, I know. Look, Sanders is a huge disappointment to all of us. I put that up. He's a heartbreaker, right? So I know I'm not elevating Sanders. I'm just talking about, but at least the guy can form a coherent thought and sentence, and he's got his cognitive abilities, unlike Sleepy Joe and the rest of them.
I still wear all my Bernie Sanders T-shirts to work out in.
Good for you. Yeah, I'm very torn. It's like when people bad talk, I'm like, I understand why. But it's like I think his heart was in it. I guess he just it's just like enough's enough. He cannot change the party from within, but he's unwilling to recognize the only solution is to run as a third party candidate and challenge these sons of bitches once and for all. And stop thinking everyone's going to label you as Ralph Nader. They won't. You will be surprised at what a hero people will consider you if you say, enough's enough, fuck you, I'm running third party, and see everybody that gets on the bandwagon with you.
Yeah, he surrounded himself by too many establishment people who were talking him out of doing a third party run, and it's really sad. I got this really, really sweet Baby Yoda Bernie T-shirt, and it's still too soon for me to put that thing back on.
My Bernie crop top is too cute to not wear. I am sorry. Okay.
But the ballot access perspective, do you know that when you circulate petitions from a candidate in the state of Illinois, you have to have something like 5 times as many signatures to get on the ballot if you're not a Democrat?
Yeah, and that should be illegal. That should be like challenged in the court of law. It should be. Elections should be equal and fair as far as getting ballot access, and if that's going to be the way Illinois does that, I don't think we should play fair as far as dealing with how they deal with their elections. So if these Democrats want to go and block people like the Green Party and other independents from getting on the ballot, then maybe we got to find ways to make sure that they never get elected again.
Ilhanna, you're breaking my heart. I know.
I know. I just keep reminding us, geez.
I know.
Yeah, Jessica and everybody else, Illinois is a ballot initiative state. Isn't that something that we could possibly bring to a ballot initiative to say, hey, like we should be able to run third party candidates with the same amount of like barriers, restrictions, hurdles that a Democratic or Republican. That'd be something to look at. I'm working inside of getting a ballot initiative on 2024 for ranked choice voting, but I was actually unaware of that until you just mentioned that right now.
Well, and think about it. If we had ranked choice voting or something, a voting system like that, I'm a firm voting person myself, but ranked choice is good. Public financing of elections, then would we have the term limit problem that Jerry was just talking about? I necessarily think so. Voting systems and getting this money out is one of the ways to keep people, and as you said, keeping it down so that, like, if I want to run on the rent is too damn high platform, then I should be able to create part very easily.
Yeah. That's a great point. I mean, that's a really great point. And I think that, I think that your internet's breaking up. Oh no, we were just lagging. That's okay. I heard everything.
I heard it too.
Yeah. No, and that's a really great point, but I see that so often with progressive systems, right? When it's just like, if this thing just kind of like went, it would create all this other stuff, and then that would go, and it would create this other ripple effect. And so I think just being really focused on the integrity of our elections, especially in the world of financing. So that's like actually an excellent segue, because there is obviously a lot of financing going on in this election, and I picked two different specific financiers, I should say, of certain races that I wanted to share with everybody and get your input on. Okay, so the first thing that I found was about basically the Republican primary. And the Republicans have an opportunity now to largely choose the Illinois GOP party's future direction with their nominee for governor. And the candidates are 6 men who say they, to varying degrees, oppose abortion, additional gun regulation, tax-supported services for immigrants, living in the country without illegal permission, and government handouts. And in the closing weeks of the primary campaign, the contest has evolved into a 2-man race, basically, between Senator Darren Bailey and a far-right conservative, and Aurora Mayor Richard Irvin, who, like, everybody's heard about, right? Because there's all those ads. So this is what I found interesting. According to a Tribune article, when Governor J.B. Pritzker and the Pritzker-backed Democratic Governors Association weighed in to the GOP primary with ads promoting Bailey as too conservative for Illinois, that was actually in an effort to hobble Irvin's better funded candidacy, because we know that the climate right now in right-wing politics is that if you're extreme conservative, you're gonna get at least 25 to 33% of the vote almost instantly, right? And so now Irvin's stuck in a rock and a hard place, saying, like, this guy's not electable because he's too conservative, and then all the conservatives are like, oh wait, so you're not too conservative, right? So since May, Pritzker and the Democratic Governors Association have dropped more than $12 million on TV ads meant to sink the Republican Richard Irvin as an Army veteran who became Aurora, Illinois' first Black mayor in 2017, and to elevate his extreme right-wing Republican primary opponent, Darren Bailey. With digital ads factored in, Democrats are on pace to spend a total of $32 million on similar spots.
Because they feel that they can beat Bailey.
So doesn't this sound kind of familiar, like something like the Pied Piper?
It's a Pied Piper strategy, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually the TV. If you've seen the TV ads, they're extremely vile on both sides.
Yeah.
Of that really just cluster fudge of a circus.
They never learn from the Pied Piper strategy is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
it really is.
Democrats aren't smart enough, and be careful what you wish for.
Yep.
Like and that's $32 million that could have been spent on promoting and building a better bench in Illinois so that we'd have better candidates coming up. Like, and a crazy conservative can win even in Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't think Trump could win, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly didn't. I was like, no, there's no way.
You know what, Kira? Sadly, I'm like, oh, he could, just because I'm looking at the state of America, I'm like, yeah, a clown like this can win. And when I saw what Hillary was doing to prop him up, I'm like, oh. First of all, I mean, not to go off to the whole tangent, but Obama insulting him at that White House press correspondence dinner. That's when Trump's like, I'm going to run and I'm going to beat you. And then when Hillary thought he's a clown, I'm going to prop him up. Yeah, I mean, it's everything that. Who was his? He had this African American woman. I forgot her. Oh, what was her name? Anybody? Oh, she was on The Apprentice, and she went on Frontline. Omarosa, and she's like, "That's the moment. That's the moment." Obama insulted Donald Trump, and he was going to run, and Obama and the Democrats didn't know what they were going to get, because just imagine the power and the revenge of winning. And I mean, I'm paraphrasing. But yeah, it's just like that. You know, you don't want to like poke that hornet's nest, because there's so many stupid people who will gravitate towards that phony populist who knows how to manipulate their emotions and pit people against each other. You know, pander to their worst fears and view worldviews to elevate themselves as, like, you know, the leader that they think that they want.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, no, I wanted to bring that up, and because I've been seeing the ads and I've been seeing the little disclaimer on the bottom, like JB Pritzker, and I was like, oh man, they're doing Pied Piper shit. That sucks.
He's not even being smart enough to like fund different PACs. He's putting his name on an ad for, like, not that, again, transparency is important. I'm not advocating for building a house of PACs the way like other people have done, but like, and there's other states that do it. There's other places where they're weighing in because they're trying to get, you know, a candidate that they think is easier to beat. And in this climate, you got to be careful what you wish for, man. People's lives are at stake, so you got to be careful.
It's too scary of an environment right now to be putting up cuckoo candidates, right? Yeah.
As always, we've got like pearls of wisdom in the live chat. Ilhanner says the billionaires are spending our tax money to promote their candidates. American democracy is just an illusion of choice. We need to go after the billionaires and their multimillionaires. Hey, Ilhanner, you should like email me, Jerry@chicagocorner.tv. I don't know if you've got a webcam, but you make such really great points. I'd love to have you on as a co-host some Chicago Corner.
Yeah.
So yeah, because you always have a lot of great stuff to contribute that I appreciate.
Absolutely. That'd be a lot of fun.
You know, I've often joked about, you know, taking the billionaires and hanging them up and, you know, like piñatas, and then beating the heck out of them with really soft Nerf bats until all the money falls out.
Do they have to be soft, Ed? I'm trying to like remove this.
Well, I'm trying to be gentle with my words here, because, you know, I'm just wondering if maybe the Nerf needs to be removed from the bats.
You know, if you can hide it on that end, it's my sloggy, my.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah.
It just keeps popping back in. Oh, because you're slow, and I keep going in there and turning it off.
So thanks.
Got it. Okay. Yep. No problem. All right. That was like when we both set up the StreamYard link 2 weeks ago. Whoops. Yeah. So another aspect of funding that I found interesting was Ken Griffin's funding.
That piece of shit. Oh my God.
Billionaire.
Oh my God. Ken Griffin. Don't get me started on him, man.
Oh man, how is that guy not behind bars in prison forever?
Because he's got endless amounts of wheelbarrows of money to give Gary Gensler and the SEC and everybody else that's complicit in allowing Citadel and all these fucking hedge funds to just completely manipulate the stock market.
Hashtag AMC not leaving.
That's right. We're apes.
So he's been busy, very busy, funneling $6.25 million to an independent expenditure committee that 2 years ago spent millions in a successful effort to unseat a Democratic high court justice.
How does he have $6.25 million when he keeps shoveling all that cash into those fake short accounts
Ed,
shares.
he bought himself a copy of the Constitution.
Oh my
Remember
God.
that? He
There
bought
are
himself
so
a
many.
copy of the
They call them.
Constitution.
Oh,
That's how much money he's got.
I'm sorry to do a little side note thing here, but there's these things in Wall Street called synthetic shares. Synthetic is a fancy word for fake.
Counterfeit. We could do Ed and I could do a whole show on our meme stocks and this stuff. And not to go too off the subject, but Ken Griffin is very much at the heart of this financial manipulation that is right out there in the light of day. And despite the fact he's breaking the SEC security laws, he's also probably violating all kinds of laws, funding campaigns to influence candidates to do his bidding and to continue getting away. He's like a modern day financial Al Capone.
Yeah.
There's no way that a movie theater stock is only worth like $12.50 a share right now.
Not
People
when nobody's
are going gangbusters to movie theaters now. And that's all I'm going to say on that subject.
Okay.
What were you going to say, Jessica?
I was just going to say it is. Since Citizens United, it is so easy to launder money through political campaigns. In fact, fuck the Ozarks. If I wanted to launder money, I do it through nonprofits and PACs. That's how
I'm glad that you've.
That's right. That's right. That's absolutely
safety tip. Thank you, Jessica.
Hey, if there's a progressive who wants to give me $1 billion, I will launder it clean and I will give it to the right people. I promise.
I promise you. Yeah, so this lavish spending in judicial races is a recent phenomenon for Illinois, actually, according to Kent Redfield, who's a University of Illinois professor emeritus of politics, and could, quote, erode public trust in the fairness and legitimacy of the judiciary. You think? I mean, couldn't you literally say that about any elected position? Am I a crazy person? Like, when I read that, I was like, yeah, of course it does. Like, are we gonna draw that parallel between every single elected position, or no, we're just gonna leave it at the judiciary? Okay, got it. That makes a whole hell of a lot of sense.
Dominic, it's in the house.
Hey, what's up? Independent Voter Party. That's hard to say. IndependentVoterParty.org.
Corporations do not influence our laws. The politicians that take their money do. It's not who offers the money; it's those who take it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's anyway. It's really the general election that when Griffin's money is going to come into serious play. He's already spent $50 million to back Mayor Richard Irvin for governor. $50 million. In a primary election, has once again poured money into citizens.
Sure, that's just a pittance to him. It's just a pittance.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah, and this other organization also was successful in booting a judicial candidate 2 years ago, and two recent pieces of legislation could affect that future spending in judicial races. A recent law went into effect that prohibits out-of-state donation to judicial races. And then there's also, another legislation of where it says independent expenditure committees created to support or oppose judicial candidates cannot accept more than $500,000 per individual donor. So yeah, I don't see a lot of change happening on that. In that area, but I just thought that it was particularly funny that they're pointing out that, hey, there's going to be some why am I blanking on the word that I'm looking for? There's going to be some incentivization to do what these people who are donating to you are asking
influence
you to do, regardless of your influence. Thank you. Regardless of what position you're running for. Like, that's kind of why money in politics is a thing that shouldn't be happening. So I thought that was a silly point, and just to keep your eyes peeled for a lot of this money going into these judicial campaigns, because that's a little bit of a wild ride too, and really does poke a lot of holes in this idea that like judges are these like like people that don't have some political leaning. That's bullshit too. So. Anything to add to that?
I was just going to say, Edward.
Oh,
Still there?
yeah, I'm still here.
Does this woman bring the good stuff to the show or not?
Yeah,
Does this woman come prepared or not? Kira, I am endlessly. Yeah, you. Are you kidding? She is the brains and the beauty of the show. No, I am so impressed by the research and all of the material you bring to the show. That's very, very well.
Thank you, Jerry.
Presented. I mean, I've learned stuff from you. I mean, I try to like research stuff ahead of the show,
That.
and my brains can't wrap around all of it. So, I'm just like I'm endlessly impressed with how prepared you are helping shed light on this stuff.
And actually, this is a perfect opportunity to promote how people can pay us. Right?
Yeah, we do have a super chat. That I mean, I think we've gotten like maybe 3 super chats in the past 2 months. It's been there, and I don't want to beg for money, but I'm going to beg for money. And it's not because we're getting paid for this. It just helps run some of our operational costs. So if any of you out there, well, even if it's $1 super chat, I mean, I don't discriminate with who I'm going to like bring a comment up from based on whether or not they pay us. I see other shows do that, and I'm like, if there's a good comment from someone who can't afford to do a super chat, I'm going to put it up anyway. But for those of you who can every once in a while, please contribute, because look at what this woman brings to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Yeah, I mean, preparation for the show is a lot. It's quite a bit.
And not only do we need to support progressive candidates and organizations, but we have to support the progressives who are producing content for us. Like,
trying to
we have to do that. Like, that's so absolutely. That's part of the game.
Yeah. And, it takes a lot to create and produce a show. Jerry, I mean, I commend you for having done it twice a week on your own.
I mean, I'm happy I was able to get things like to a point where it's like, oh, thank Christ, somebody wants to come in and not that I wanted to like abandon. I mean, I'm here anyway because it's like I like being a guest host, a co-host also. Running the show, hosting a show, it takes a lot of effort. So it's like I co-host the National Tuesday show with Kit because I get to talk about national stuff. I can take a breather here, still contribute, but then I think it's a good balance of like once a week with other things that we're juggling is realistic. So I thank you for wanting to like host Chicago Corner once a week. And look, I also think that like we definitely have different niches that are interesting for our audience. You are so embedded in the political activism arena where I'm not, and I'm glad you are, because it's like you're sharing stuff that I wouldn't know how to report on or share because I've marched in some protests and I try to keep my ear to the ground, but you're out there doing it. I'm more like of a news political gadfly, like watching what's going on, commenting on the shit, and then complaining. But then it's like, okay, let's not just complain. Let's try to find solutions and logical things that we can try to like figure out why aren't our representatives doing this. Some of the answers are so simple, and we do have people represent, a handful of people across Chicago representing us, like Byron Cicho Lopez or, Jamal Green announced his candidacy for mayor this week. There are some progressive members of city council that, are walking the walk as well as talking the talk. So it's like trying to put the attention on them and also just like comb through what the solutions are and just, repeat it over and over and over again.
Absolutely. And I keep saying it, but that's honestly why I made the shift from the national show to the local show. Cause I was like, man, all I feel like I'm doing is yelling into a void. I really want to get people.
It sucks.
I want to get up under people.
Yeah. And being able to like co-host with you here, it's like, great. I don't feel like I'll yell into the void on Friday and then we'll talk about solutions. At least here, it's like, this is it. And I'm learning stuff too. So this is good.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope that I can continue to provide that.
You always will. I saw from you when you were hosting when you were co-hosting the national show. I told you this one time when Daniel and Kit invited me on to co-host. I had watched an episode with you and you had your notes, and I'm just like, shit, this is what I need to do.
I used to have a book of notes. I had I was like, well, and then I researched this and it's like this. And then,
I mean, I'll go over a story to be familiar with it as we normally do, but it's like you went into details and I'm like, I want to be as good as she is. So you're an inspiration.
You.
All right.
Kira does homework for her homework.
Yeah. To be fair, well, I mean, I don't know. You have a background in media as well, Jerry. All of us.
Well, mostly producing and but mostly
I had a
narrative.
journalism background.
Right.
So.
I'm like narrative director, filmmaker, fantasy, drama, but I'm a political junkie. That's why when I fell into this, it's like, well, I don't have to just like yell into the void on Facebook with my posts. I can yell into the void on YouTube and contribute to this channel, but also, not entertain, but find other people to talk about stuff with. So it's not just posting the problem, but like talking about what are the solutions and who are the handful of candidates that might help affect that change when we find them, Yeah,
100%, and lift them up.
Yeah.
So I have a million stories and we're not going to cover them all tonight. So I am just picking and choosing what's coming up next. And I did want to quick cover this $2 billion in federal funding fraudulently paid out story.
To COVID clinics?
No, unemployment.
Oh, okay.
Unemployment
I missed that. Okay.
So
that was that where people were scamming from out of state and out of country. Yeah.
And everybody's blaming each other, right?
I remember
nobody ever takes responsibility and says, you know what, this is how we could do it better. Everybody's always like, it's their fault. It's their fault. It drives me crazy. It drives me absolutely
I remember they started, people started blaming the unemployed for the problem. And the truth was that it wasn't them at all. It's just they were trying to file at the same time all these other people were fraudulently trying to file.
That's right.
And I even had a relative who had somebody had filed for him.
Yep.
And he got a thing in the mail and he had to tell them, he's like, no, I'm working right now. I did not file for this.
There weren't enough checks and balances in place.
I mean,
that's exactly what it was.
I mean, and clearly the state of Illinois was overwhelmed with the requests and everything. And they, as typically are wait until the emergency arises until they act to actually deal with the problem.
Yeah. I mean,
Ben Stiller, what did Ben Stiller do, Warren?
I just thought it was a really funny comment, so I
What
put it up.
didn't Ben Stiller do?
I love Ben Stiller.
He went to visit the what's his face over in that one country.
Ben Stiller did?
Yeah, there's a thing on Twitter you could find.
I'll have to check it out.
All right. Well, I'll let you know about this story real quick because I want to make sure to get through as many as possible here, but also get context too from everybody. So, fraudsters stole more than half the money paid out by the state from a special pandemic unemployment fund, pilfering nearly $2 billion with a B in federal money that was supposed to help out of work Illinoisans, according to state audit. The audit offers the first estimate for Illinois' share of the mammoth fraud that swept the country during the pandemic, and it covers much of the period the program was in use from July 2020 to June 2021. The Illinois Department of Employment Security acknowledged in November of 2020 that more than 212,000 fraudulent unemployment claims had been filed, but had never released a dollar amount until now. The fraud had been no secret since the earliest days of the federal government creating the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. It was meant to pay people not usually covered by unemployment, which is, I think, one of the big confusions, right? People who were working under 1099 as independent contractors, such as
they had to rush stuff is what it was, Kira. And it's like, no one could have foreseen this pandemic, but that they didn't have a backup plan for a disaster. I mean, that should have been in place with the amount of money that they spend putting the system online.
And the truth, Jerry, is that everyone should have gotten relief checks during the lockdown,
absolutely.
and they should have just simplified the process instead of, as usual, throwing roadblocks in front of it.
Yeah, means testing and everything else.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, and it says the audit didn't review those failures, let alone determine how much they may have boosted the fraud tab. Which failures? Let me see. But the Tribune investigation published a year ago found that the problems in Illinois were exacerbated by IDES's failure to follow federal recommendations to adopt free fraud fighting tools. Say that 3 times, right? Free fraud fighting tools made available before the pandemic, while also being slow in developing other processes to weed out the fraud. Yep. Yep, that's about right. That's about right.
They gone now? Did I hide them? There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's like, what?
Yeah. So I mean, there's so much to that. There's so much to this story. The audit doesn't address the frustration of Illinoisans whose names or accounts were improperly used, which is what Ed's pointing to. Yeah. Victims of fraud have been reporting a maddening experience with the unemployment agency, particularly at the height of the pandemic. Struggles to get someone at the department to pick up the phone or return messages, which was impossible. Getting the state to actually stop payments to the thieves in what became, in essence, slow motion theft, which I thought was really interesting. So that's the state of affairs, y'all. A lot of wasted money through our fingertips there. And, you know, all going to fraudsters. And the article pointed to a lot of them being out of state, even out of country. So there you have it. Any other thoughts on that?
What can you say? I mean, it's just like another day in Illinois, you know, dropping the ball and you know, blaming the people who are out of work and who need help. And you know, once again, it's like, you know, the reason I jumped to the whole COVID clinic thing was I'd seen an article, and unfortunately, because I was dealing with the technical issues at the top of the show, I didn't get through all your show notes, but I had come across a story that was talking about all of the federal funds that went to these COVID clinics that weren't real COVID clinics, and they were giving, and we've reported on this in the past also, all this wasted money because checks and balances weren't in place that should have gone where it was most sorely needed and actually helping people because of all the negligence and incompetence. Oh, we lost Jessica.
Oh no.
Did we lose?
Yeah.
Maybe she
her
rebooted
internet
her
was
stream.
a little bit
she can come back
spotty.
in.
Yeah, her internet was a little bit spotty. But I did want to make sure to cover the speeding ticket situation.
Yes! The older people finally did something right. Instead of being the worthless cucks that they are. Yeah, no, I was excited about this because I really thought that asshole Wagaspack who decided to shut down the meeting earlier this week was going to like hand Lightfoot a victory. Hey, Jessica, good you're back. Because it's like, you know, generally Lightfoot gets what she wants. But I interrupted your reporting, Kira. I'm sorry. I'm just excited.
No, actually, I was actually going to hand it to you because I know that this topic holds a special place in your heart.
It holds a special place in my heart, not because I advocate for running red lights or speeding, but because we know that this safety system that's for the children is not for the children. It's to pick Chicagoans' motorists' pockets to generate more revenue when you consider that Mayor Emanuel with his motorcade regularly ran red lights, but it was okay because he paid the tickets afterwards. It's like, well, then it's not really about safety, is it, Rom? Because when you ran those red lights or when you sped, you could have hit a kid. So fuck you. Where's Rom? I didn't pop him up.
Where is Rom?
Yeah.
Come on, you can't talk about him.
I got him. Here he is.
Somebody say my name.
Yeah, here he is.
He has to be here to defend himself, Jerry. Otherwise,
hey, I don't have to defend myself anymore. I'm in Japan, suckers.
Yeah.
Suckers.
Yeah, you're in Japan. Yeah, you're in Japan.
Yeah.
I take responsibility for what happened because it happened on my watch.
I would like to thank the great mayor of the city of Chicago, Mayor Emanuel, for help making this happen today.
Boo! Boo!
The teeth. I take it. Anyway, yeah, no, but I don't have the story up in front of me, but so Kira, if you want to read from it.
Yeah. Basically, let's see. I had pulled a few things from the actual story, but they are not making sense to me right now. So I'm just going to go straight to the story. Okay. So basically what ended up happening was the city council finance committee voted 16-15 this mayoral.
That was close too. Close vote.
Oh, Kira's stream is starting to fritz out here.
Oh, I thought it was mine. Oreo, don't step on that cable. Is she? Am I still being? Jessica, can you hear me?
I can hear you guys. Kira's frozen for me, but I'm
Kira?
problematic.
Oh, and I don't have the story up to continue it. Why don't we just
if you hang on a second, Jerry, I can probably bring up.
Because I'm worried if I open up another browser window on my end, I'll be the next to go because of
where was it?
My activity monitor, Ed, 38% with only Chrome open.
Yeah, you definitely got the gremlins in there, Jerry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just hanging on with just my camera and my microphone, so I don't crash.
Yes. Well, I actually have a little Twitter update from Heather Sharon, who I believe is Block Club. She's WTTW.
Ed, I give you the con. Why don't you bring it up and report on it?
And
wait for Kira.
By for news.
Since you've got the computer that works tonight.
From Heather Sharon's Twitter, defying Mayor Larry Lightfoot, the City Council's Finance Committee voted 16-15 to roll back the law that hits drivers who speed past schools and parks 6 miles over the limit with $35 tickets. The final vote is scheduled for tomorrow. So what that's basically going to do is I think they're upgrading it from 10 miles over is when you get hit with the $35 ticket. Instead of between 6 and 9.
Mayor Lightfoot ain't happy.
And it looks like Kira's back.
I did. I made it back, everybody.
In the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time. Okay, so we were able to I love that song. So we were able to cover for you, Kira, but let's get the con back to Kira. She can continue the story.
Yeah. So, so basically, as you can see, 16-15 was the vote. Now the mayor is gearing up for a showdown that could lead to her first veto should the legislation pass the full council on Wednesday, which is tomorrow. A yes vote hailed from the ward stretching from downtown to the far south side. It included 6 allies with whom the mayor has put in positions of leadership on the council. Basically, ahead of the vote, Anthony Beal, alderman, said that the city's latest argument that restoring the higher threshold for speed camera tickets would leave a $40 million to $45 million hole in the budget was an attempt to spin the narrative, quote unquote.
Well, maybe string up some billionaires and play billionaire piñata for the rest of that money. How about that?
I like that idea.
I'm in.
I mean, the police are sitting on $2 billion.
I mean, I've been informed. I've been informed by my agent that might be illegal.
And it is interesting because they claim that it's not a cash grab, but a lot of the arguments for keeping it involves shocker.
Look,
the amount of revenue that it's bringing in.
She ran on getting rid of it, and then she lowered the threshold.
Mm-hmm.
She lied.
Yeah, and in just the first 2 months, the city issued $11 million in fines for those caught going 6 to 10 miles an hour over. $11 million just for that.
And refresh my memory, didn't the rest of Illinois decide that red light cameras or speed cameras were a scam and they got rid of them?
Gone.
Every other place in Illinois,
because they know what they're all about. That's right.
So what is Chicago hanging on to this farce for? We know it's garbage.
Well, it's like everything else, Ed. It's literally they're insulting us, acting like we don't see through what they're doing because they don't give a shit, because they have no respect for the citizens and residents and motorists across Chicago. It's like they can do whatever the fuck they want to do. They don't care. They're unaccountable. They're untouchable. That's what they are.
Well, Jerry, we have to think of all the children that are going to be hit with these fines as they go 6 to 9 miles per hour. I mean, 10 miles per hour over the speed limit in the new cars that their parents got them, the electric cars that everyone could totally afford right now.
Your Honor, I cannot wait for the election.
So Jerry, I did. Oh, look at J-Ma. So I did look up numbers on speed cameras and if they keep people safer, because you know me, I had to look it up. People are saying,
That they
and
keep people safer. Do that? Because I know. Okay, so let me just, before you go on with that, I really don't mean to interrupt you, but before this research you're looking at now, I recall a couple years ago when Rahm instituted the speed cameras, there were more accidents from cars rear-ending each other that wouldn't have happened if someone wasn't like. Plus, remember, they shortened the yellows. Them shortening the yellows.
Oh, shortening the yellows is a bad idea.
Yeah, with people like determine. Oh my God, is this going to be a short or a regular timed yellow? I'm going to hit the brakes, and then they'd be rammed from behind, causing other mayhem. So, but has it changed since then?
Yeah. So the research that I found. Oh, did I put this in the notes? Dear God, I hope I did. No,
when the yellow light's coming, gotta go home.
I'll have to find that. I did not put where I got this research from in my notes. Damn it, all the hell. Okay, so fatal or serious injury crashes increased by 1% near speed cameras between 2012 and 13 and 2017 and 18 compared to a 19% increase citywide.
So increase in accidents happening where the where the red light cameras and speed cameras are?
So
it increased, but it
dangerous?
increased in other areas. So in the years from 2012 to 13 and 2017 to 18, both those years, citywide crashes just increased. But near cameras, there was only a 1% increase, and there was a 19% increase in other areas without cameras.
Okay.
So, that looks to have decreased by a substantial amount. Overall crash totals increased. Yeah, and I don't know why they went with these 2 years. Specifically, I think they go with these 2 years because these 2 years are when there was an increase in crashing. And overall,
it would help their narrative. It would help drive their narrative.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And overall, that's why I was like, damn it, I didn't pull up where I found this, so I have to go back and find it and put it in the stream. Overall crash totals increased 4% in the camera locations compared to 26% in all crashes citywide. So it looks inside of that research, and this was because I was looking at Chicago specifically. So this is citywide, and this is what I could find to be as specific as possible when it comes to the numbers.
You know what my biggest problem is with those tickets? Irregardless of whether or not they are safer, right? None of them are issued properly.
Mm-hmm.
I did a special report on this. Every camera that takes a picture of a car is supposed to identify the make of the vehicle on the ticket, and 3 sets of eyes look at the tickets before they go out to people. It's a state of Illinois and a city of Chicago ordinance. And you know why they're supposed to have the make on the ticket? So that they can make sure that the license plate matches the make of the vehicle, so they realize this license, and it happens. Someone stealing a license plate from a car, putting on a stolen vehicle and running around town, if they can identify that the make matches the license plate, it's a legitimate ticket. Every automated traffic camera ticket identifies every vehicle in Chicago as other. They don't take the step to cross-check. So, it's the whole rules for thee, not for me. We're going to issue you the tickets, but we're not going to actually follow the laws that the state and the city put in place to make sure that they're issued properly, because we just don't give a shit. We want your money. That's another part of the piece of the pie here, is that and it used to be you could contest your ticket, and I did it twice. And the first administrative judge who read my contest by mail said, "Yeah, you're right. They didn't identify the make of your vehicle. I'm dismissing this." The second time I contested it, they denied it by mail. I went in front of a judge. He denied it, but I was still able to appeal it. I hired an attorney, $1,000 to take it to court on appeal. That judge threw it out and said, "You're right." And I established precedent twice. And then suddenly when I created a Facebook page with the form letter that says, "This is the letter you send to contest your ticket. These are the ordinances."
Nice.
Fortunately, all the administrative law judges across Chicago were not recognizing that defense, which was legit, because, administrative law judges, they're not judges. They're lawyers moonlighting for the city to collect as much money as possible. So what ended up happening was, I have no doubt, once people started, not just because of me, but the strategy was there, they're like, no, dismiss this stuff. And there was a class action suit brought against the city, and the judge who ruled on it, who retired right after she made this ruling, said, "Oh no, it's enough to see in the photograph what the make of your vehicle is." It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Every car that looks like a suppository, they all match each other. How can you say the make of the car? You can't identify the make of a car just from the picture if you're not cross-checking it with the Secretary of State's records, which they can. That license plate, that vehicle make. Okay, yeah, this ticket is legit. They just don't want to do it. It's their laziness. So, again, it's like it comes down to, I get so pissed off by the fact that and I'm not saying we shouldn't follow the laws and we shouldn't follow the rules, but when it's only on us and our representatives and our officials and everybody that's like trying to nickel and dime all of us, whether it's let's reduce the speed threshold to make more money, or it's too bad we were not properly issuing these tickets despite the fact the law says we're supposed to do it this way, you're going to pay up anyway. It just galls me. And that's all I got for tonight.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. And the other thing another thing that was really missing when I was doing my research, right? Because we're talking specifically about 6 to 10 miles an hour over getting ticketed, right? And it's like, how
realize you're going 6 to 10 over.
Well, and how many people are actually getting in crashes inside of that window, right?
Kira, I hit my brakes when I go by Lane Tech High School on Western Avenue because it goes from a 30 to a 20. First of all, they have the 30-mile-an-hour sign, and then like literally half a block, they got the 20-mile-per-hour school zone. So it's like if you see the 30, you think you're going 30. If you miss the 20, you're not reducing your speed. But when I reduce to 20 miles an hour, I'm just like, or under, I'm just like, if I was going 30,
you're idling.
Brake, and nobody's running across the street, and nobody's running across the street in these park zones at 11 o'clock at night where the park is like a block away and you're going over a bridge that nobody has any way to cross. Like I'm thinking about over on
I know that area.
Peterson near Lincoln.
And the speed of this, you're like the speed zone change there is so abrupt that by people slowing down to 20, you're more likely to cause an accident from the people rear-ending you who didn't see the speed zone change.
So guys,
which I've done plenty of times, is I've braked instantly. Yep.
We all have, and there's like judgment that comes into play when you're driving, but the city is taking advantage of people's ability to critically think and make judgment calls. I'm not saying, hey man, speed up, just be reckless and speed. It comes down to taking advantage of what sometimes does come down to a judgment call to penalize you and generate revenue for the city when it's like sometimes you don't have a choice. I went through a yellow light once because it was raining and the street was slick and it was one of those shortly timed yellows. And I saw the yellow and like, I'm not going to hit the brakes because I'm going to slide into the intersection and possibly crash if someone doesn't stop. So I ran the yellow. Of course, it turned red when I was already through the intersection. But that's the one ticket that I contested. And when I went to the judge that I had to appear for, the administrative law judge, what were you doing going so fast through the light? I said, I'm sorry, I'm not here on a speed issue. I'm here because the light changed quickly. So, he was basically deflecting from why I was there because they just wanted to ka-ching, take what they needed, and try to dissuade me. And the only reason I decided to take it to the appeals judge was because I had shared my experience with Citizens to Abolish Red Light Cameras, Mark Wallace here in Chicago, and he was doing some work with Romanucci and Blandon, which was a law firm that was looking into class actions against the city for these traffic camera issues. And Romanucci and Blandon told me, we can include you in our class, so go to court and fight it and, bring the results back to us and, we can use it for the class action. Well, guess what? I couldn't argue it in front of the judge because I needed an attorney, right, to do it right. So I had to pay an attorney $1,000. And when the judge ruled in my favor and dismissed it, Romanucci and Blandon said, we're sorry, Jerry. You can't be part of the class anymore because you have no losses, you have no damages because you beat it. And I'm just like, you told me to go to court and you knew it was going to, I basically established precedent for you out of my pocket. And now you're telling me I can't be part of it.
But I think their point is you have to lose in order to have standing in their case.
I understand that, Ed, but that's something that their attorneys, they should have told me that.
Yeah, they should have.
They didn't.
Yeah.
I was
that's a bit of a runaround.
Let's use this guy to and the precedent didn't end up working. I mean, I don't know that they used my precedent, but high-powered, high-paid attorneys should not be telling people that come to them to be involved in a class action, go do. And they did. And you know what? Romanucci and Blandon could have come to court and represented me at no cost. to establish that. I should have had to spend $1,000 to
Yeah.
establish precedent and prove that 2 judges said, yeah, you're right. So anyway,
Yeah, that would
Yep.
have been nice.
Yeah,
Ugh.
I mean, it'd be nice if our courts were actually helpful too. I mean, I could get
weren't
into
corrupt.
To
I
summarize,
could get into some stories about that as well, and some of my personal experiences of like getting no help. Like, just at least point me in the right direction. Like, could you be of any service whatsoever? No. But hey, guys,
I
I'm
approve of your methods.
Yeah? Well, you're not from Chicago.
all right.
so
Well, we're
red
gonna
light
wrap up the show
cameras
here.
suck. They need to go
They-
away, and you need to do that right now, Lori Lightfoot.
Do it. Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled. And I'm going to start wrapping us up now because usually I'm headed to bed about this time. So
right.
it is about that time because my ass is going to be up at like 5 in the morning. It's so stupid. Anyway, I just want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. Ed and Jerry, as always, and our special guest,
Yay.
Jessica.
Thank you.
For coming. Thank you for joining and putting in your input on all of our stories tonight, right? Because you came for the interview and you stayed for the show. So yeah. And we will of course be connected going further with your efforts and that sort of thing. So again, you can find Jessica over at the Action Network. Ed, do you have that website real quick on hand? Her event coming up, Operation Save Abortion, on Sunday, July 17th, 2022.
Here we go.
So let's get that up on screen whenever we can so that people can find you easily. And then
I
also get
appreciate it.
involved.
Here's the
Also
events.
get involved
Also-
with what you're up to. What's up?
I was gonna say I had a bit.ly for it, but someone quicker than me beat me to it. So
Booyah. That was, Ed works a lot of magic here.
absolutely.
So yeah, thank
Here,
you all.
I'll close us out after you say the good.
Oh, thank you. Yay.
Yeah.
Hands-free sign off here.
I got you covered.
All right, everybody. You can find me here next Tuesday. I know Jerry's got a show for you, same time, same place on Friday. And be sure to, bring your drink for the Friday show because the Friday show is always a party. So good to see you all and have a great week. Bye, Chicago.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.